All right, I think we're live. I think that's it. Here, I'm gonna move this over to the side just a tad, and this can come up here. All right, so welcome to the second episode of our game development streams. Today, I am going to be doing a little bit more of a freeform way to do it, I guess would be one way to put it. So, this is where we were at last time. Sorry, that's going to keep bothering me if I don't do anything about it. But this is where we were last time. And I'm going to also do one more thing. Top chat. Live chat. Okay. We had the magic system in place where you can click and place one down. We had a circle drawn around the player character. And we had both of our characters created and the ability to switch between the two of them with the number keys. So, what we need to do now is, I think, work on enemies. I think that'll probably be, actually that'll probably be next video. But, what I want to do today, before we get into the actual game creation stuff and working with, I want to do a little work on UI, just mainly because that's the one topic where I find people have a lot of trouble, but I also think it would be interesting to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make an array. I'm going to go ahead and explain what I mean by arrays. So, I did these briefly last video, but I feel like they're kind of worth explaining. So, with how variables work in GameMaker, you can have it as one of a few things. A variable can be Boolean, which that is a true or false, or in binary terms, it would be a 1 or a 0. You have integers, which is kind of self-explanatory. Real numbers, also kind of self-explanatory, similar to math. Not really, at least in my experience, outside of very particular circumstances, you're not going to be needing to make a distinction between these two a whole lot. Here's where you're probably going to begin to need to. Then we have strings. What strings are a series of text that you would put in a text box. So let's say that I wanted to have the game draw the text title. That would not be put in as a what GameMaker reads that as is, it doesn't read it as these letters right here. It reads it as the string. You have to put the quotation marks around it. That's actually why you've been seeing me do that in certain parts of the code, because quotation marks tells GameMaker that that is a string. It's not part of the usual code. You want this drawn, or you want it to look for this specific string. And then you have one more type of variable. That variable is assets. I think there might be one or two more, but assets is the most general type. So this would be anything from objects to audio to sprites. Just pretty much anything that you have in the game as a coded asset, that's going to be an asset variable. So, for example, let's go ahead and talk about player animation, because I don't actually have sprites for that yet, but it's probably going to be a big question at some point down the line. How are we going to do that? So, what I find is usually the best way, and this is mainly just with how GameMaker reads sprites, is usually I divide my sprites like such. I do idle, then after that I have my walking, running, and those, mainly since those are the sprites you're going to have regardless of what kind of game you're doing, you're going to have a walk, run. Then you have jump, airborne, which those two are kind of self-explanatory. Jump is when you go off the ground. Airborne is when you're off the ground. However, for this game, since it's not a platformer, I'm just going to have an airborne, because I don't think I'm going to have characters jump. Then we're going to have attack. Maybe I usually put a question mark in my notation if I am debating on how to do something. So then we're also going to need a hurt. What we might, and then I'm gonna put a subarray in this, so it will be state underscore sprite array. So what it's going to do for that one is the state sprite array is going to be an array where it has all the sprites for the states, and it will pick between one of those when a character is under a specific state, rather than having to write all of them and make this array 40 or 50 variables long. I think it would be easier to just say, okay, let's just make a state sprite array, and then we can put all those sprite variables there. Because some of them, there also might be variables for states where it's does have sprite, yes or no, because some of them are probably just going to be a shader effect or something like that, in addition to the gameplay effect, obviously. But hurt state sprite array, and let's see here, guard, aim, and I think that covers about everything. Mainly because what we're going to need at the very least is idle and walking sprites. I'm not good at creating sprites, so I will probably make that its own stream, where it is just going to be me relentlessly yelling at paint.net to actually do its job. But with all this being said, how does this relate to what we're going to be doing today with the UI? You see, it's easier to store all of these variables in an array than it is to have it read for all these variables individually. Now, for example, with this array right here, this would be for players, but let's say we wanted to make one for UI. So the best way that I find to do this is to make an array with your strings in it that you want, and then you use those as menu options if you have a menu. But today, what I want to do is I just want to make a simple text box, which I might do today, I might not do, but let me just go ahead and elaborate on how I usually do my text boxes. So with my text boxes, I usually have it look for one of two things. Number one, I have it check if it's I have it check between an array or a single variable. So if it's an array, that is for multi-text boxes. So if you have a conversation going on and you want it to be more than just a pop-up, I usually put that as an array. That way it reads it all back to back, and if you have any code that applies to text, you can apply it on a string by string basis if necessary. Or if you want something to change, you can just use the single variable. I also usually like to have it draw a text box, and how this is drawn usually varies by person, but I like to have mine drawn at the bottom of the screen and kind of give it a cinematic cut, if that makes any sense, like cinematic aspect ratio. So it would go to right about the top of where my camera is right here. At most, probably more so around where my nose is. There's going to be like a line on the screen to show text. But, yeah, text boxes are probably one of the more important parts of making an RPG in GameMaker. I would say the interesting part with working with arrays is what I like to affectionately refer to as, I forget that, I have a few terms for them. Some of them I actually call punch card arrays. And this is mainly due to how I do arrays. So, if with a punch card array, essentially what it is it's going to have an array in a specific object, which it pulls from another to get information. So, for example, I want to say I had an array for characters drawn out somewhere on here. So let's see here, recent. Of course, Symphonos Reprise. Should be down here, plot one. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna scroll through all this. You can tell that I've really focused on writing this plot. No, actually no, it was written in OneNote, excuse me. But let's just do it right on our array sheet here, since we're already doing it. So let's say that we have a character array. So what we're going to have is HP, MP, state 1, state 2, and just go weapon, guard. Alright. That would be an array that you could easily create on the character, where on an enemy, where when they attack the character, it's going to read these variables, and then that will determine the outcome. So for example, if we have it read for a guard state, it might be done player side, but if you want to, say you wanted to have an enemy who, in their AI, knows not to attack a guarded player. So, you could then go if O player dot guard does not equal true. Wait, does not equal false, then you can put the rest of the code there. So for example, that would be if you wanted it to not attack a guarded player, or say you wanted enemies to change AI based on how much HP or MP, you could do the exact same thing. Granted, readable arrays, I would say, are more so useful if we wanted to do something player to player. And part of the reason why I think arrays are going to be very useful for this game is particularly with the combination state system. So the reason why there are two listed here. So you could easily do if you could set one to state 1 and one to state 2. And then I'm probably going to make a giant script with all the states where what it does is it's going to say if state, it's going to have, well, actually, since I'm talking about states, let's make the state array. There's going to be a few in here. A few are Boolean, a few are integer, and a few are well, a few are Boolean, and I think a few are going to probably, excuse me, one's going to be string. So the first one's going to be variable name. So, excuse me, it's going to be the state name. I'm putting a pair of quotation marks around it because that is a string. That would be if we have a status menu and we want it to read what the name of the state is. That's what it's going to read right there. And then from here on out, I'm going to actually go ahead, and this might be the easier way to do it, is to take the array outline, put that over here, and then we're going to open the design document that I had open over here. And let's see here, because these are a few. So it's going to be can AOE question mark. That's going to be a Boolean. And then if so, it will have AOE range, which if it is not one, you don't need to worry about that. Granted, there is actually a way that I will probably end up doing this with scripting. So with scripting, what you can do is you can actually make GameMaker read unique commands. So what I often end up using it for is things like menus or particle effects, things where you want it to I think the best way to use it is probably the camera system. So if you make a camera system, I highly recommend adding scripts to it. Because if you add scripts to it, then you have more control over it. So for example, say I made a camera system where it focuses on, where it has a focal point between the two characters, but it will widen out as they get farther apart. Or you have a camera system where you want it to be very dynamic. So say I wanted the camera system to be movable in cutscenes. It would be easier for me to make a focus object that I can move around to control the camera, but also to have specific commands for things like zooming, things like screen shake. So that way you don't have to put a whole lot of code in. You can just have it run a specific set of commands, and then it will go through with it. With states, I think that might be useful. I also think it might just end up being a master item that's like state, and then you have the variables below it, but I digress. So, for example, AoE range, contagious. I usually put not a question mark. So, contagious, and I'm going to put T/F. Just beside that. Then we have burst, T/F, and then these are all the ones that we're already defined in there. So, but we're also going to have can move, so that would be, say you have a state like frozen, or a state where they're covered in something and they can't move. That's what that's for. Then we have a few variables that are going to be specific, like SPDFAC, ATKFAC, and let's see here, MPFAC and DEF. So what those are going to be is those are going to be factors. So usually, as I've mentioned a few times, you want to use math. And multiplying something by something, or adding or dividing it by something, that is usually the easiest way to tell GameMaker to do what you want it to do. So, for example, what I would probably do with this is, if it doesn't affect it, I would just put 1. But if it does affect it, I would either put a decimal point if it affects it negatively, or a number higher than 1 if it affects it positively. So, for example, if I were to put it by 2, I could have a section of the code where it says speed equals yada yada. And then there's going to be a system in which this state array will be plugged into an enemy or a player, and that will override default parameters for speed factor, attack factor, and defense factor, or it will multiply them. So that's probably the easier way to do it. If you have these factors, by default in the player model they're going to be 1, but I can have it say if state true, then it will pull these. Granted, the hard part of GameMaker, I would say, is always interplay between objects. That's where you're going to run into issues. It's not very hard to make a very well-functioning player, but what is hard is to make it so that all the objects in here interact in a proper way. Now, we do have a few things here that I want to go ahead and get rid of. So let's see here. Objects. I think if I go ahead and put it as invisible, Yeah, that way we don't have to just deal with that ugly green sphere right now. Alright, so what we're going to do, with all that being said, is we have our fire right here. And that is our first element. However, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to add I'm going to add a few mechanics to make sure that we can switch spells really quickly. And then I am going to experiment with combining. So we have a fire sprite. Let's go to to the master objects, and let's start by looking at what harmonics has for us. So, is there any definitions? Element is 1, state is 0. So with the state, an element, the reason why these two are different. So, say we have an attack that's shadow, but we want it to inflict a different state. Or maybe we have attacks where the state is something unique to that attack or can be changed. The state variable will be unique. The AoE var, that variable is going to be defined. So all the code for these are all going to be defined later. But for right now, I need to make another harmonics object. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make another object. So create object water, and go ahead and just add a create new. I'm pretty sure there's a way to make it default. I just haven't. See, I had to do a clean install, but S water. Alright, and then let's edit this image. I want to kind of make... You can tell that I am not good at this just by watching it. So, if we were to do something like that. Close enough. Actually, let's just add a little bit of gray right here. There. Okay, that's our water sprite. It's beautiful. And then I'm going to go ahead and define the parent really quickly. So the parent object will be element. Harmonics. And then let me go ahead and let's go into the variable definitions. And I'm going to go ahead and edit the time on this one just to check when we put it in. Let's make the time on this one 60, so it should stay for around 2 seconds. AoE var. Nope. And then this one's going to have element 2 and state 2. And let me open fire, because I think fire I have element 1, state 1, and then cost let's say 30. All those will be defined and tweaked later, but I just wanted to go ahead and make some changes in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our controller object, which I think I have a tab open right here. Yep, description, get inputs, range, harmonics, if key har. Alright, so let's go ahead and first go into here, and we, you know how I mentioned the variable that can be asset. that's what we're going to do first. So, current underscore harmonic equals O fire. Key change har equals mouse check I'm seeing if there, how do you check the scroll wheel? Button press, button release. Mouse check button MB let's do it as a right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make the, I'm going to make it right here. Let's just make the harmonic change array. Now granted, the rest of these are going to be superseded by variables at a later point. But what I'm going to do now is harmonic underscore array equals O fire, comma, O water, if then we're going to have a few more. So array spell, I'm going to put spell INV ID. That's for the spell inventory ID. That's going to be different from a general spell ID. So that would be, say by default it equals 1. Wait, no. We're actually going to need to do this in the creation file. So we're going to go over here. Spell underscore ID harmonic INV ID equals 0. And then current harmonic equals oh wait, I always forget this. You need to, it's brackets. It's not parentheses, it's brackets. So current harmonic equals harmonic inventory ID Alright, actually let's go down. Let's cut this down here. Control X. equals it's an array command, I'm pretty sure. I always forget the command for this. Wait, why are two of these? Oh, wait. Let's just do spell array. Current harmonic equals spell array yeah, I remember how to create it and stuff, but let's see here. Oh, yep. It's a one-dimensional. So equals spell array harmonic inventory ID. So, and I'm going to go down here and I'm going to set this to say current harmonic. So if we go in there, I have not implemented the way to change it yet, but it should just let you click. And we're going to need to do one more thing. Spell underscore number equals array get equals array length spell array. All right, and then we're going to work it like this. If key underscore har, and then we're going to add the rest of the variables in here. So if spell underscore number minus 1, so with how array lengths work, equals harmonic inventory ID harmonic inv ID equals 0. Else underscore number else harmonic ID plus 1. Plus plus. if key, let's do one more thing, change underscore har. And let's see if that did it. Wait, it might be that -1. Wait, it might be. If I do check button released, that might be better. Spell number. Oh, that might be a better way to do. Equals spell number +1. Spell number -1. Let's flip it. I don't know if that'll really do anything. If harmonic inventory ID equals spell number, I'm trying to think this through. Oh, that would be why. INV. Oh, that is stupid. That is stupid. Alright, watch. So, yeah, that's kind of the usefulness of arrays, because what we can actually do here is if we wanted to add more, so let's say we wanted to add a fire spell, a water spell, and let's just say light, then we could add a light spell into this array and it will automatically work with it. So, just as weird, let's do O fire again. O fire. Or actually, this would be probably an interesting way to do it. Let's have it spawn chorus. Probably because all their spell IDs are different. Watch, if you do it with Symphonia, then it's not going to do that. The reason it's doing that is because each chorus reads that ID differently, so watch. So like with all these choruses, one's reading fire, one's reading chorus, and then they're both reading fire and water at the same time. Alright, so what we need to do now is, now that we have a way that spells can be chosen between, just very basic, we're going to modify that and make the controls better in a later video. What I want to do now is something a little more drawing the GUI. So this is the this is going to be for the HUD. And what we're going to do here is we're going to what the GUI drawing is it's an overlay. So what we need to do for the controller variable is we need to make a few more definitions that I want to plug into this HUD. So these are not going to be pulled easily, but so we're going to have I want to say there is a character ID system. I want to say that is a thing. Player variable movement. I'm going to look at my thing here really quickly because I'm pretty sure I have something on chorus for it. Harmonics, players, chorus. Let's see here. Car ID. Yeah, his character ID is 1. So what we're going to do for that is we're going to create arrays for these IDs for variables for it to pull. But let's start by making something on the controller here. So this is going to be the stat array. Well, excuse me, this is going to be a section called statistics, and so this will be HP equals HP. This one's going to actually be defined in the HP equals HP. No, I don't want the built-in variables. MP equals MP, and let's just add a few more. Def ATK equals ATK. Yeah, I think if you just have them in like this, it's not going to crash it. Yeah, let's remove the let me do one more thing. I just did that to show something. I'm going to go ahead and remove the harmonic to summon chorus. That just might create issues down the line. It's over here in the controller variable. Water. What we're going to do eventually is we're going to tie that to you have to summon it within a certain circle, and then it's going to be tied to more so a turn-based system. But just for right now, I feel like that's kind of the best way to do it. Alright, so it's on... Shoot, what is it on? It's... That's not water. Oh, I'm in controller. Yeah, that's where we're adding this. Alright. character selection. Yeah, we don't. We're gonna look at the step stuff later, but for right now, let's focus on this. ATK equals ATK. So those are all your variable definitions. Those are all going to be defined on a character by character basis, but the one we're mainly worried about here is HP. So let's do upon creation, HP will equal HP max. And I'm going to go into here. What was it? It was... Yeah, it's I need to go under the controller and I need to define a variable here. What I'm going to do, so we have character ID, but we're also going to add a few more. So HP max equals, let's have it default to 30. We're going to add another one here. And that's going to be MP max, that would be 20, etc. So we have a few variables defined. Let's go into let's just add a few more. So def equals 10. And then we're going to also have one more array where it is an equipment array. That's going to be where it's going to say you have this, this, and this equip. Items are going to go into an array. So pretty much anything you have where you want multiple variables stored like this or read like this, you're probably going to want to get it as an array. There is a way to still read it without it being one. But what it's going to do is it's going to pull character ID. From that ID, it's going to pull the stats for that character, etc. But for right now, I don't think I'm not too worried about getting it implemented. But what I want to do is I want to go ahead and get into the UI, because this is where things are going to kind of get interesting. So draw GUI. If exists chorus will... Oh, we need to do one more thing actually. So fonts, since we're doing UI, we're going to create a font here. So what should we call our font? I would say let's make this one FUFHUD. All right, and let's go ahead and choose the font here. I do like asset type icon, but you want to, generally speaking with UI, you want to choose either a serif or oftentimes I go for a Courier, but you want to keep it fairly consistent. That one I usually use. Arials are good. Any Times New fonts. Sego looks okay. But yeah, like Times New Roman Greek. That is a very easily readable font. That's the main thing you want to focus on with the UI, HUD elements, anything like that. But I want to go with Calibri. Actually, no. Let's Arial. Let's go with Arial. And then size, I want to say regular, anti-aliasing. Let's see what happens when we turn it off. Game preview. And then you have some advanced options where it is hinting, normal, apply kerning, rounding is floor, true type. All that we're not going to worry about right now. We're just going to go back into our HUD. And it's going to And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and full screen this so we can actually do this. If object exists occurrence, then underscore it's going to create a temporary variable for this. Then HP underscore slot 1 equals HP equals oChorus dot HP. So on the surface, that looks fine. However, there is an issue that we will run into. This is not a string. This is just a raw set of data. Alright, here we go. We're going to add the draw command here. So, draw text. And let's just put it at X. So first we need to draw set font FHUD, draw, then you have button, circle. I usually like to, darn, there's a whole lot more commands here that I do not remember. Physics particle draw extension, physics draw debug, application service draw enable, skeleton collision. The text will be X. Let's set it to draw the text at 10, 10. And then the string, I'm going to go ahead and I don't experiment with strings too much. Oh, excuse me. HP slot 1 equals string actually, yeah, we don't even need another variable there. That and Control V. And you see up in the corner right there, it's drawing it. So That's cool and all, but we need to do some edits here. Alright, so draw. Set B-align. And your options for vertical alignment, if I remember correctly, are top, so let's do FA underscore bottom. Underscore center. And if we do that, it's going to draw the text in the bottom center. FA or you can just do it like this, I'm pretty sure. FA top. I think it might be that you had to do it the other way. Yep. It's the hundreds there. So horizontal line FA. But we can add more to this string. Transform. And with this one, you have X. Let's up the scale here. So let's say 30, 30, and then angle, I think if you just set it to 0. Yeah, see, it makes it a lot bigger, but a little too big. So let's do 3 and 3. Now, granted, the easier way is just go into up the font size in. All right, let's see here. Let me see here. So I'm going to go ahead and what if I do this? What if I Control X? I'm going to cut that and I'm going to put this before chorus, so it's just going to know to draw everything in that bottom regardless. Why is it doing that? Okay. 0, 0. Oh, wait a second. No, it's excuse me. With this, it tells it where to draw it from the object itself, not from the screen. So FA top. And then set this to FA left. And both of those should draw it then. See? Yep, it draws it right there as a 30. Now let's change the color really quickly. C1. Set that to C red. So it should be drawing the HP in red now. Let's set the alpha to 1 and see if that does it. Because I want to say y. There's the string. Yeah, if we just set it to draw the text, then it should do that fine. I'm going to go and edit the font to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so go into the HUDs here. And let's set the size to around 30. And now if we hit play, yep, you'll see Chorus's little bar is up here. Now, what I'm going to do for the HUD is I'm actually going to give it a few variables so it can grab the information on the screen. So, add event. Upon creation, it's going to grab these variables. Screen underscore length equals window get color cursor full screen height get width screen underscore height equals window get height. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. What is that for? So I can actually show you really quickly. So let's say that we want to draw it at the very bottom. So it will be window underscore wait, excuse me, it will be screen underscore height. I need to respell that. Height, yeah. But yeah, it should work if I just do it like that. Watch. See, it's now at the bottom. Mainly because it knows to draw it from that corner. The only thing I'll probably do here is just set the v-align to bottom, and that should fix that small issue we're seeing over there, where it's dipping down. Yeah, it brings it slightly above where we needed. Now for centering it. We're going to go ahead and set the align here to center. Alright, so equals screen length divided by 2. if you divide it by 2, it's going to put it basically in the center of the screen. Now, it's drawing that HP. So, where do we go from here? What I wanted to do as well is I wanted to draw a box. So, we're going to have a new one here. Draw underscore rectangle. X1 will equal screen length. X2, well, Y1 will equal screen height. X2. So where that's going to put it is it's going to put it in the bottom right hand corner. But let's put X2 at 0 and Y2 at 50, and then outline will be false. What? Oh, yeah, you don't want to set X to 50 and Y to 50, and that should fix what just happened. Or not. Oh, yeah, it's let's set it to like 2000 and then 50 for the Y. Yeah, see, because it is going all the way over there. Yeah, you wanted to have an origin point. Wait a minute. If we go from 0, 0 to X2 should be screen length, and Y2 should probably be around 500. I think that'll do it. And then outline, no, wait, false. And let's go ahead and draw color FAC. Let's set it to a blue. That way I can actually kind of see it. Yeah, 0, 0 is kind of the... That is odd. The screen length is not reading all the way. Here's the weirder thing. If you full screen, since it's not set to do the window thing, watch if I hit F4. Yeah, it doesn't full screen all the way. So, window get... yeah, it glitches like that when you close it out. But, window get width, I want to keep it like that. Let's go ahead and Control X. Let's add a step event so it knows to keep track of these. HUD and screen height. That might do it. If you set it as a step event, then it's going to repeatedly find those variables. Let's see here. If yeah, see, it's we'll talk about debugger in a bit, but right now is not the time. So, oh, wait a second. If I think it might be the alignment. So if I control X and then put this under that, that'll probably solve our issue. Mostly. Yeah, display would probably be display get GUI width. Excuse me, that is the better one. Use display get GUI height. Yeah, if we do, watch. If you do display get GUI height, then that should fix it. Yeah, it's fixed now. All right, so let's go back to the draw tab here. And I'm going to set this to X should stay